Alright boys, today we're making a quick video about an easy question. How did the Bolshevik party establish the new communism state? So first of all, Lenin controlled a strip of land that ran from Petrograd to Moscow. He did not control any other area in the vast country, which was Russia. There were also many people who hated the thought of communism having control over them, as Lenin was harsh to them and didn't keep his promises first, but then it changed. There were also many who wanted the Tsar back in power, as they thought Tsar was a lot better than Lenin. All the groups that opposed Lenin were called the Whites. A civil war broke out in Russia, with the Whites fighting to get rid of the rest, the communists, when Russia was still in World War One. Well then, what were Lenin's problems? Lenin's problems were limited control of Russian territory, many groups against his rule, and still in World War One. By 1921, Lenin had come through all of these problems and was the head of the communist government in Russia. So how did he come about? First of all, he pulled out Russia out of the war with the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, signed in March 1918, which was a cruel treaty which the Russians had to sign. Trotsky was given the task of negotiating with the Germans. Russia was to lose a great deal of land, which included 60 million people, to the Germans, and land also included 25% of her farming land and 75% of her iron ore and coal deposits. But the treaty got Russia out of the war and allowed Lenin the time to concentrate on home issues. To remember for you is that the treaty, when looking for, well, not for, at Versailles, and how harsh Versailles appeared to be, many thought that if the Germans were willing to hand it out, they should be willing to take similar punishment. So even though this took place, the forces that were against Lenin in the Civil War were never united in one group. Each of them had its own reason for fighting the communists, and the groups that fought in the Reds never united into one large army. As such, the Red Army, led by Trotsky, could pick them off one by one. Also, the communists held the two most important cities in Russia, Moscow and Moscow and Petrograd, with all their main communication centers in them, including rail lines and etc. Trotsky used extract officers who had experience in leading men and fighting in battles. Their skill has proved to invaluable, and there were 500 of them. Trotsky was also a brilliant leader who instilled into his men and a belief in what they were fighting for. Discipline was harsh, but however, if a unit performed badly in battle and its leader was shot, the men were sent to prison. The Reds also appeared the people very well. They were ordered to do this, while the Whites frequently abused those who lived in areas that they were in. The Reds were usually seen as liberators when they advanced to an area where the Whites had been. The peasants were also promised land by the Reds, while the Whites promised to restore land back into its original owner. However, the peasants, I'm assuming that they already had the land, and when Lenin made his decreases saying that they could have a bit of land for them, so the land decree gave peasants the right to take over estates of the gentry and to decide for themselves the best way to divide it up. The peasants, however, were already doing this, so this decree only legalized their actions. Land could no longer be bought or sold, and it belonged to the entire people. So what else can we say about this question? Using these tactics of picking off White Army and winning the support of the people, the Reds claimed victory in 1921, with the Whites out of Russia or dead. Lenin now has Russia under his control. Any problems were dealt by the Cheka, the Fifth Communist Secret Police. They had used what was known as the Red Terror during the Civil War to keep people in order. To survive during the Civil War, Lenin introduced the war communism. And what was it, you asked? Well, it was in the factories. The government took complete control. The workers who had been given the rights to run factories had that right taken away from them. Managers ran them and discipline was strict. Food was rationed. Workers and soldiers received the most, while civil servants received the little. The workers had to do what the government said they had to do, just as they did in the days of the Tsar. In the countryside, the Cheka was sent out to take the food from the peasant farmers. Anybody found keeping food from others was shot. The peasant responded by projecting food only for themselves, and was so in the cities were more short of food than before. Life under Lenin appeared to be worse than under Nicholas II, that was imprisoned by Lenin.